Okay, so welcome again to the last session of the day. It's my honor today to welcome a very distinguished group of diplomats to the Emerging Markets Forum. So all of our panelists arrived in Washington, D.C. after very distinguished diplomatic careers and now hold very important posts at their respective embassies. So let me introduce them one in order from seated next to me. We have Minister He Ning, the Commercial Minister for the Embassy of the People's Republic of China. So, Minister Gheewhan Kim, the Minister for Economic Affairs at the Korean Embassy. Minister Kenneth Smith, he's the Head of Trade and NAFTA Office of the Embassy of Mexico. Mr. Emirhan Yorulmazlar, he's the political counselor at the Turkish Embassy in Washington, D.C. And Ms. Lorena Palomo is the senior officer on trade policy at the Embassy of Chile. So, welcome to all of you. So I know that through the day we have cut short audience question time a lot, so today we'll try and get to question time much quicker. So let me explain the format. So briefly, I've asked all the panelists in order to give short introductions to their country, and after that, I'll ask maybe one or two rounds of questions, and then open it up for questions, and you can speak to individual members about their countries, or you can speak to the whole panel. So for the start-off question, let me ask each of you to give a short advertisement for your country. In particular, what is it that gives its country its dynamism, and what is it that makes it a great place to do business? So let me start with Minister He Ning.
Thank you, Chairman. It's over? Okay. Thank you, Chairman. I never tried myself to make any advertisement, but this time I have to do this for my country. I think it's well known that China has a very big population, 1.3, 1.4 billion population. And for business people, people would mean, to some extent, market. And if you have a population, say, 1 million, 10 million, it is a market, but it's a limited market. But with 1.3 billion people, it's very, very potential. It's attractive. So I think people are willing, business people are willing to go to China to make profits. And China has been following the open door policy for more than 30 years. And the changes during the past 30 years is remarkable, not only for people outside China to watch the change, but also for people who lived in China for their whole life. They have benefited, enjoyed the change very much. And I think nowadays, any Chinese people, no matter how old they are the people who get the benefit from the changes. And we are going to change even more, because quite recently, as we all know, the 18th National Party of the CPC held in Beijing, setting up our goal to double GDP by the year 2020, to double the income, per capita income, by the year 2020, based on 2010 level. And we are going to build China into a modernized society by the year of 2049 or 2050. So with this goal, we do expect to have even more changes that you probably cannot imagine nowadays, and to see the market to grow, and people enjoy better life, and providing much more market opportunities for all people, for business people, for investors to make their profits. This is a way for China to realize its goal to build a harmonious world, not only to enjoy the benefit of the opening up policy, but also to share through our business ties, through our trade, and through our investment, two-way traffic, to share the benefit of that and making contribution as well to the world economy. Thank you.
Same question to you, Mr. Kim.
Okay. I'd like to introduce my country, Korea. Korea is very frequently seen on TV. Perhaps global company names like Samsung, LG, Hyundai, Kia Motors are famous Korean brands. And also, recently we see more of threats or some tensions from North Korea. As we say, is a kind of noisy in North Korea. It also make Korea known many areas in the world. And K-pop singer Psy is the name I can say with some pride. And I think there are many other entertainers, artists, leading Asia and also global businesses. So as you know, the Korea has transformed itself from one of those poor LDC countries in the 50s and to one of leading democracies with market economy. I think Korea is one of rare success stories that appeals to emerging market economies. So actually, we are very keen in expanding and sharing the opportunities of sharing shared experience. I hope Korea is more forthcoming in development cooperation areas. I think World Bank President Gheewhan Kim is very keen in expand Korean success models to many parts of developed countries in the world. And now the modern Korea is a bit different. You know, Korea's gross national output is more than $1 trillion US, and also its trade volume, total trade volume, is surpassing the level of 1 trillion. So Korea joined the 8th member of 1 trillion trade club in the world. That means that Korea is heavily dependent on trade for national growth and the business activities. Therefore, Korea has been pursuing FTAs very actively. So very recently, we concluded FTA with United States and EU. This is a very high-quality FTA that gives a great platform of consultation, transparency, and institution building. It's just more than reduced tariff scheme. And on top of that, Korea is now pursuing FTA with China and CKJ trilateral, RCEP. And with most of TPP countries, Korea have concluded FTAs or pursuing FTAs. So the free trade and market economy is the keyword, regardless of the governments, incumbent governments. So I think a new Korean government, Park Geun-hye government, she is the first elected female leader in Korea and in our nearby region, and first majority government in Korea. So I think we will have much more to share and develop further with United States and Asia Pacific region. Lastly, on noisy North Korea, I think there are many newspaper reportage on sometimes North Korean crisis. But there's no feeling of crisis in our region. Actually, we are making our efforts to build trust and more atmosphere of dialogue, and we need to pursue North Korea to change and follow the model of success like South Korea or neighbors in the region. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, thanks to all of you for the opportunity to participate in this Emerging Market Forum. Let me speak a little bit about Mexico, what we have done and what we are doing in terms of creating opportunities for our population and, of course, attractive business and investment opportunities, both for Mexicans and in terms of foreign direct investment. Well, Mexico is a growing and dynamic Latin American country that underwent what is virtually a radical transformation over the last 20 years. We went from being one of the world's most closed economies to one of the world's most open through a process of first unilateral tariff reduction and trade liberalization then, and took a turn on building a wide network of free trade agreements, beginning with our agreements within the NAFTA, with Chile also as one of our, actually our first partner in free trade. Everybody always focuses only on the NAFTA, but we began that push together in trade liberalization. And that has led to a radical change of what the country was 20, 25 years ago and what it is today. And GDP growth is steady over the last few years, or between 4% and 5%, a low inflation of approximately 3%, and a growing middle class. And what we have been able to build through this process of trade liberalization has been possible. It has allowed us to become the world's 11th largest exporter and the 10th largest importer. And trade accounts for almost 70% of our GDP. So it has become an essential part of our economy in terms of creating jobs, business opportunities, and investment. But one thing that we have understood and that we're pushing actively, we recently started a new administration on December 1st of 2012. We understand the need to fortify our presence worldwide, our network of free trade agreements. That's why we have joined the negotiations on the TPP, a strategic opportunity to consolidate the trade agreements that we already have with countries in our hemisphere, with Chile, Peru, obviously Canada and the United States, and also to diversify, to work towards entering into the markets that will be the growing regions of the future. And that is where Asia Pacific is, the region that will carry the growth of the economy in the future. And so that's a strategic turn, very important, that Mexico is doing in terms of trying to consolidate what we already have in our trade environment worldwide, but also create new opportunities and diversify. But most importantly, one lesson that we have learned is that the activities in the international front have to go hand in hand with domestic reforms. Domestic reforms that eliminate red tape, that allow for the majority of the population to be able to join in the benefits that globalization can offer. Because if you don't prepare the majority of your population and don't give them the opportunities in terms of education, health, infrastructure, etc., and liberalizing within your rules framework, basically regulatory improvement and the strengthening of laws such as the investment law, competition law, mining law, fiscal and educational and labor reform, these things have to go hand in hand in order to really be able to get the most out of this trade liberalization push. So Mexico, after some 20-odd years, has reached a point in which we have a growing middle class. The numbers speak for themselves. We reached $740 billion in trade worldwide, 500 of which are concentrated with the United States. And to put some of those figures in perspective, you have to realize that every day, $1.3 billion are traded between Mexico and the United States. And that's the pace, and it's constantly growing. And just in closing, basically, for this opening statement, based on the strengthening the integration of the production chains that have been made possible through the NAFTA, the integration of industries such as automotive, electronics, livestock and cattle. There's a wide variety of industries that have grown in Mexico over the last 20 to 25 years. Aerospace is developing actively, and that have strong linkages with US production and with Canadian production, makes Mexico a very attractive hub for capturing investment. We used to receive $3 billion in FDI before 1993, before the NAFTA, and that's up to almost 25 today on average over the last few years. So that's why we believe that we are a growing country and a great source of exports, but also very attractive to do business with. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about my country. I would like to briefly share some 4 specific pillars that I think make Chile an attractive place to invest and make business. I would say that one of the main pillars is the monetary policy management, that is based on an inflation-targeted regime conducted by an independent central bank and supported by the floating exchange regime. The other, or the second pillar, is the prudential and predictable fiscal policy. And the third one is to have a proper framework for regulation and supervision of the financial system and integration with international economic markets. I would say that these 4 pillars in conjunction are the blend that make Chile a success in the international market. We have been able to grow over 20 years based on a market economy, based mainly on trade and investment, and the soundness of the institution, the fiscal policy, and the monetary makes the blend or the pillar for investors to think in Chile, think of Chile as a reliable partner for business. Regarding the integration with international market, I would like to comment, like Kenneth has already said, it's important and crucial issue for the economy of Chile. We have almost 22 free trade agreements with 59 countries. We are negotiating TPP. And we have agreement with the other 10 countries and Japan that is going to enter soon. But we also are a strategic partner with Mexico and other Latin American countries in the Pacific Alliance. We see Asia as an emerging economy, very dynamic, and we want to work together to spread the benefits of trade for our countries through building the bridge between Latin America and the Asia region. I think that is the best landscape I can give you about the economics of my country. Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity and the invitation. I think Turkey is a success story, especially in the last 20 years, because of market liberalization, structural reforms, and public-private partnership. I would say we have 3 biggest economic assets, which are our geoeconomic position, strong economic indicators, and our demographics. Turkey's geography and economic integration with its neighborhood is a very powerful asset for us. We have a unique geography that connects 3 continents and many sub-regions. Turkey is a natural bridge between East and the West and North and the South axis, which makes it an efficient and cost-effective outlet for major markets. Historically and politically, we have access to Europe, the Balkans, the Caucasia, Central Asia, Middle East, North Africa, and even Southeast Asia. This broad scope gives us access to energy resources as well as advantageous sources of labor, capital, and goods. Turkey is a convening power, is a power potential energy hub and a regional financial center. Turkey's democratic regime and fully-fledged market economy assigns us a unique role in this geography, which we have been making much more benefit recently. The share of Turkey's exports to its broader neighborhood rose from approximately 20% to 36% in the last decade. Turkish products are now the benchmark from Iraq to Iran to Egypt to Tunisia. Our opening to Africa has also paid off, whereby our commercial relations increased tenfold, though from a very meager base. The EU is still our #1 trading partner, but other countries like Russia and Iraq are also catching up now. In short, we are commercially active in a wide geography, and overall, this combination makes Turkey a central location for international business. We have largely benefited from a customs union with the European Union, which was initiated in 1996, and now we are signing a couple of free trade agreements with countries including South Korea, Lebanon, Jordan, and many other countries. Turkey has also experienced a very painful process of structural reforms in the beginning of 2000s, especially in financial and public sectors. Yet it has since paid off. Turkey has a booming economy of $772 billion, which has tripled in the last decade. Now we are the 17th biggest economy globally and 7th largest in Europe. Turkey has a sound banking system with successful central banking and regulatory controls. More importantly, there is a well-proven political commitment to financial stability. Turkey has had economic growth over the last decade with average 5.2% annually, and it is estimated that Turkey would be the fastest growing OECD member state between 2011 and 2017 with a growth rate of 6.7% annually. We have become the second biggest reformer among OECD countries in terms of restrictions on FDI since 1997. And we have become a business-friendly country with an average of 6 days to set up a company. Finally, Turkey has a young and growing population. We are a country of 75 million, where the median age is now 29, and this demographic trend will continue until 2015. So with a demographic advantage, we believe that Turkey will have a future of economic growth and prosperity. Now, Turkey has 50 million internet users and 65 million cell phone users. A final point is Turkey's 2023 vision for the 100th anniversary of the foundation of the Republic. We target to become among the top 10 economies in the world with a GDP of 2 trillion and a 1 trillion foreign trade volume. Thank you.
So I'll start off my questioning with a somewhat lighter question. And it used to be that all of our students, when they wanted to study abroad, they would want to go to Paris, Barcelona, London. And nowadays, they want to go to Beijing and Seoul and Mexico City, Santiago, Istanbul. So if a student group was going, what was the one thing you would want them to see that would tell them about your country? So not necessarily just something, a historical monument or something that tells you about the student, about the beating heart of your country. So again, let me start with Minister Ning.
Thank you. I think when you go to any place for a visit, you are sure to see lots of things. And something you can see quite obviously, and something you can not see at once, but you have to go into deeper understanding of the country so that you can see, which is more important. I think if you go to China, it might not be enough to stay there for a short while to understand the country deeper. And we do have more advanced cities on the coastal area on the east side. We do have more cities in the middle with more historic background. And we do have lots of places on the western part and lagging behind in terms of economic development. but people are trying to catch up with people on the eastern side by providing more environmental friendly industries like services industries, including consulting, like tourism and so on. And so if you want to understand the country, we do suggest that you stay there for a while and to see not only the eastern part, but also the western part, to see the whole picture of it, so that you can understand that Chinese people, they are friendly, they are benign, they are patient. Patience not because of their origin, but actually they are patient because when they had poorer life, they have to fight themselves against the environment. They have to make sure that they can, through their own hard working, they can live a better life. So this actually built up their ability to fight against anything outside yourself. So that is where the patience came from. And I think we do know that this business school does have a kind of program with one of the universities back in China, the University of International Business and Economics. And I think through this program, you can experience yourself by living there, by studying there, by having exchanges with your counterparts there, and having deeper understanding of the people in China, of the culture in China, of the history in China, so that you can now understand why Chinese people, they are willing to follow the goal set up by the 18th Party Congress to realize the goal for the modernization of the nation. Because we had very long history, and particularly in the past 200 years, there were lots of foreign invasions into China. And the history, this part of history is very bitter, buried in our mind. So that's why people are willing actually to change the nation into a more modernized nation, into a nation enjoying full respect from other nations. And we don't want to treat other nations badly, but we only want to be equal with other nations. Thank you.
I think it depends on the purpose of visit, a topic of interest of the visitor. I think Korea is a small country compared to China. China is a country of great diversity and great the regional differences. I mean, tolerance and diversity is one of the topic in life of Chinese. But at the same time, Korea is also offering diversities and dynamic individualisms and also creativity, which transform Korea day to day. Or sometimes when I go back to Korea, I feel a lack of catch up because already my hometown, my Seoul and metropolitan area has changed a lot. So, it's a diplomatic life, just very hard in that regard, because you need to catch up, not only whereabouts of your friends, but also whereabouts of your country itself. So, Seoul is Seoul, Busan, Incheon, Gwangju, Daegu, and the Jeju Island as a local, provincial, metropolitan areas. And also largest broadband users and just infrastructures are there. So you will see the future product, and also you can without using tablet PCs, whether it is Samsung-made tablet PC or is iPad or smartphone. iPad or Samsung Galaxy I think you will enjoy the dynamic life of Korean people are facing, and without using those equipment very well, you cannot catch up very well. So this is the modern face of Korea and modern face of Seoul. And also the North Korea, I think is a topic, important topic, just for dialogue or for increased dialogue and shared prosperity based on trust. I think you need to visit the border area. The military demarcation line is around half of, located in the middle of Korean Peninsula. You can see North Korea from the territory of South Korea, or you can visit North Korea. You can see South Korea from the territory of North Korea. But by night, both territories are different. I mean, northern territories are dark, mostly dark, with some the lights in the capital city. But South Korea is bright. The whole peninsula is bright with light. So this is the place you can feel how you can pursue your economic development and happiness of people, and the result is different. I mean, the example of North Korea, example of South Korea. I mean, this is quite a living example you can feel in Korea. And if you have a certain personal interest of entertainment businesses, you can see many places you visit for K-pop or Korean dramas and Korean movies. You can see some of heroes and heroines with signature on it. You can meet them in the department store in their promotional activities, or you can visit the real scene is happening. So it depends on your purpose. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I think we believe that Mexico is one of the most famous and most attractive locations to visit as a tourist. It has to do with our particular geography, climate. You can visit anywhere from the Aztec civilizations to the Mayan cities of the southeast to the beautiful coast. But I think for a group such as yours, if I imagine you traveling to Mexico for business school students, it would be very interesting for you to visit the city of Querétaro, in the state of Querétaro. Not very easy to pronounce, but more and more in the news and more an example, I think, of and the ability to see the history of Mexico, what Mexico was and how it was built, and also a glimpse of the future, what we are doing in Mexico in terms of modernization and bringing economic opportunity to our population. It was a city founded in 1531 by the Spaniards and has preserved its historic colonial downtown, which has earned it the recognition by the United Nations as a World Heritage Site, which makes it very attractive. And many of Mexico's most important historical events took place there, from the planning for the Mexican independence from Spain were drafted in Querétaro and the cities around there in 1810. The Constitution of 1917, after the Mexican Revolution, was signed in Querétaro, and that was the signaling of Mexico entering fully the 20th century, and in a set of trying to establish the democratic foundations that were consolidating later on in the century. And it's very interesting to see that today the city is one of the fastest growing cities in the country, with an economic base, strong industrial base, strong attractiveness to foreign direct investment in sectors such as automotive, chemicals, paper products, machinery, and increasing the aerospace sector. Many large aerospace companies from North America and from Europe have chosen to relocate and expand operations in Mexico, and many have chosen to do it in Querétaro, which is becoming a state that is becoming a cluster for high-tech companies. with the skilled workforce and availability and schools that are producing the engineers of the future. And that's very important because one of the goals in Mexico is to really be able to link up academic institutions with innovation, with research, and with commercial applicability. So for example, we have the Mexican Aerospace University, Universidad Aeronáutica de Querétaro, which is specializing in producing these engineers, these specialists that will design, that will work on some of the most advanced machinery of the future. So I think in Querétaro you have a chance to really see a glimpse of Mexico's future in terms of where do we want to take the country, where the opportunities lie. It's also a beautiful city from the viewpoint of its historical importance. And you can see how in any country, and we believe that Mexico is the case, you can only get better, you can only modernize and advance if you remember your past, and if your roots and your past are ingrained in every activity that you carry forward. So I invite you to visit Querétaro.
Well, in the case of Chile, maybe most of you should know that Chile have beautiful landscape in the north and the south. In the Patagonia, it's very well known for those landscapes. But you, as a future businessman, I would invite you to visit the region of Antofagasta. That maybe is not most well known, but is the center of the mining industry. I will recommend you to visit a mining company because Chile is a mining country. We have been able, we have a world leader copper producer. We also are a major producer of gold, silver, iron, molybdenum, and other minerals. We have a vast natural resources in this area, and I think you can be able to know what kind of companies, workforce we develop there, and they're also a huge contribution for the total economy. Not just from the production side, but from export side. Copper export explain about 70% of our total export to the world, and it's going to continue to be an important sector in the next 2 or 3 decades. So if you want to know how the economy works, where is the future of our country, obviously copper production and mining is part of the past, the present, but it's going to continue to have an important role in the future, and there's a lot of opportunity there.
Actually, personally, I don't like the term emerging because I think there is an idea of awakening in our culture. I mean, Turkey is not an emerging market maybe, but an awakening market, because if you look at history, like 1600s or before, Turkey, China, these countries has been the biggest markets in the world by that time. And Mediterranean and the Pacific and Persian Gulf were the basis of world economy for more or less the whole time. If I want to pick up 2 words for defining Turkey and Turkish culture, it is dynamism and diversity. Turkey is the cradle of civilizations, starting from the Sumerians, Greeks, Romans, Seljukids, Ottomans, Persians, and others. So Turkey is a very good mix of many cultures, and today Turkey is still reflecting this diversity, thankfully. In the West, we have a culture of the Balkanic and Western populations. In the East, we have a culture of the Kurds, the Persians, and others. So Turkey tries to bring together East and West in its nature. And in that sense, I would advise you to go to Istanbul, which is my home city, actually. And Istanbul is a perfect mix of East and the West. And if you have ever been to Istanbul, in the old city, you will see together one of the oldest churches in the world, St. Sophia, which was built on 360 AD, together with the Blue Mosque, which was built in 1600. And they are more or less carrying the same architectural designs. Istanbul is a transcontinental city which combines Europe and Asia. I mean, if you live in Istanbul, you have to cross a bridge to go to the European part, or you have to cross a bridge to go to the Asian part. So historically, Istanbul is a very rich city. I mean, and culturally today, we have a mix of many peoples coming to Istanbul from all around the region, from Iran, from Iraq, from the Balkans. In Turkey, actually, we have more Bosnians than in Bosnia, and we have more Albanians than in Kosovo. So Turkey is still carrying this imperial heritage, more or less, despite the fact that we are a nation state. And Istanbul is also an emerging financial market, as I said before. Istanbul is bringing together the capital of maybe the Gulf countries and the technology of the European and American companies. So Istanbul is a very good mix, and I think in terms of both professional and kind of cultural purposes, Istanbul is a good choice to go in Turkey. Thank you.
So I will ask one last question, and after that, we'll go to audience questions. So the theme of our conference sub-theme is current challenges and future prospects. So I want to ask you, in your view, what is the most important economic challenge or cultural challenge that you think your country is facing? And what are you doing about it? How do you see future prospects? So could you speak to that? Thank you. Once again, let's start with you.
Thank you. I think from the economic point of view, the challenge that China is facing now is to make sure that the development in the economy, which has been for more than 30 years, and how we could be able to make the development more sustainable. When we were trying to adopt the open door policy 30-some years ago, Mr. Deng Xiaoping once described our economy, the status of the economy, as on the verge of collapse. And if we look back to see the economic data at that moment, we can understand how serious that was, because we was facing danger of collapse in terms of economy. And then the most prominent job for the government was to make sure that the economy will be able to recover from the verge of the collapse. And 30 years later, we made it. We made it, and it's a very good, big success, remarkable success, witnessed by the whole world. But we do face problems. Unbalanced development in different areas, from east to west, in different places, from the city to urban areas, from the incomes, personal incomes, from middle class to other classes. And it has been quite remarkable nowadays. They are not considered to be sustainable. So if we want to make sure that the 30 years history will be taking place for another 30, 60, 90 years, we need to make sure that the development will not only seeking for the quantity, but also have to seek for the quality. That's why we are trying to modify, to change the model of development in economy to more domestic demand oriented, to more environmental friendly, to more, say, to services oriented industries, and so on. If we look at the data that we have right now, the first, second, third industries in China making contributions to the GDP, the first industry accounts for 10% of that. The second industry accounts for around 45% of GDP. And third industry accounts similar, like the second industry. But if we look at the figure, the similar figure in the developed countries, In US, we know it's 80% of the GDP coming from services industry. And for other developed countries, the average should be around 60 to 80% of GDP. And for developing countries, the average GDP coming from industry of services is about 45 to 55%, or a little bit higher. And we are now in the middle, about the average of the GDP ratio for developing countries. And actually, 20-some years ago, our services accounted only for between 35 to 38% of GDP. So this shows that China is still in the process of developing its economy. And we do know that with advanced economy, services industry is more important than the primary and secondary industries. So we are making our best to change the model, to save energy, to make it more environmental friendly, so that we will be able to reduce the consumption of energy, of raw materials in producing same amount of goods like in other countries. That is a contribution not only to the future generation of Chinese people, but also it's a big contribution to the world economy, to the younger generations in the world. So we are trying to actually make it a high quality development in the economy in the future. And that is the biggest challenge that we are facing. We do know that we do have lots of problems. And actually, we do understand that those problems that we are facing came from the process of development. The only way to well address those issues should be dependent on our further development. So we have full confidence, and we are determined to improve ourselves, also with the help of our trading partners, of other people investing in China with more modern technology, with financial resources, so that we could be able to cope with particularly the pollution, and to make sure that whether you have a well process for production, for manufacturing goods, and you need to make sure, because this issue is universal. So if you want to deal with this, it should be dealt with our concerted efforts to make sure that everybody will enjoy it and will enjoy a better life. Thank you.
The greatest challenges and what you're doing to take care of it.
Well, the most significant challenge facing Korean government is no doubt sustaining economic growth and creating jobs. So now the global economy is under diverse crisis. So each region goes through different aspects of crisis. So I'm very pleased to see China continue to produce a very good growth number, and the United States showing a sign of recovery, while European Union goes through some fiscal crisis still. The fact that Korea has a high dependency on trade, therefore globalization provides a strong basis for economic growth, sustainable economic growth for Korea, will not change. So regardless of any incumbent governments, I think trade liberalization and strong faith in a market economy and the FTAs will be continued. Particularly the new government, the new Park Geun-hye government, which was launched very recently in February, she put forward two policy goals of the new government. One is finding new growth engines by promoting, pursuing creative economy, which means promote ICT conversion and also more emphasis on technology. So this is finding new growth engines is a very important goal. Especially China is catching up with us very rapidly. And also Japan, just a country of high technology and science, but I think we need to see and pursue some different economic path, because we are comparing the success examples of economic growth. For example, Anglo-American system is more liberalization and raising competitiveness and just walk out when you are facing crisis. Without, I think it's protectionism is a bad walkout program. So, and this is one of continued policy undercurrent of Korean government. And the second policy is on so-called economic democratization. Is a more economic democracy, which means distributing benefits and fruits of growth, economic growth, and FTAs to middle class and SMEs. As you know, Korean economy is dominated by several conglomerates. Yes, and well-known companies like Samsung, LG, Hyundai, Kia, SK, Lotte, you name it. So several big businesses are dominating economy, and they import, they export, they distribute goods and services. So there are high figures of growth, but the fruits of benefits not felt among middle class, because all the gains and benefits are distributed mainly to big businesses. So we need to improve the infrastructure. So we need to foster a level playing field for SMEs. So we need to raise the living standards of middle class. This is a quite challenging goal for new government. So as while we are continue our growth by finding new growth engines, innovative economy, creative economy, and at the same time we want to redistribute the benefits as well. Benefits therefrom as well. I hope new Park Geun-hye government will make a progress and make a good platform for the next government to come in 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, one of the priorities in the Mexican Economic Development Program of this administration is increasing the well-being of the population. And of course, that involves generating economic opportunities, creating jobs, but also in a way that adds a qualitative element to the equation. Basically, Mexico must strive at every stage of the way to reduce income disparity amongst people and amongst regions in Mexico. And similar to the example given by South Korea, the majority of Mexican businesses are small and medium-sized enterprises. A large number of them are micro businesses, 1 or 2 or 3 people maximum working in a small business environment, looking for opportunities to grow and to develop opportunities for them and for their families. So this is a very important challenge. We need to be able, as Mexico plays an increasing role in the international arena, to be able to incorporate more SMEs into the exporting activity, but also developing the right conditions, both in human capital skills to be able to participate in the domestic market, to have an opportunity to grow as businesses. And this requires a lot of work on the side of, as I mentioned in one of my earlier interventions, on promoting education at all levels, from basic education, guaranteeing a basic standard of education across our entire nation, promoting innovation, promoting the genius of a person to be able to come out and to receive an economic reward, to have the right conditions in terms of financing, capital, academic encouragement, to really blossom as an entrepreneur. That requires also increasing productivity, creating a level field, and in the sense of providing legal certainty to all activities economically. And that implies strengthening our legal and judiciary systems, strengthening key laws, as I mentioned before, in the areas of investment, in the areas of competition, to guarantee a level playing field and eliminate monopolies from dominating certain sectors of society. And this involves a lot of work in terms of structural reforms, key reforms on the fiscal side, on the energy side, to be able to maximize the competitiveness of our businesses. We need a thorough energy reform, as well as in key sectors such as telecommunications and other. So overall, I would summarize it saying that the goal, the challenge here is to develop a knowledge-based society that is able to benefit all Mexicans. We have still great disparities in development across regions. You have a region in the southeast of Mexico which concentrates the majority of rural population. All our population and rural population in Mexico is approximately 22% of our overall population. That's a little bit over 25 million people. And the rural regions generate only approximately 5% of GDP. So we need to balance the ship. We need to be able to provide rural communities, both the ones that are in agrarian employment, in agricultural activities, and those who are not, with the opportunities to really grow. And in the recognition now that Mexico has, talking about the domestic aspect of the equation, we recognize that an increased international role is no longer a necessity. Rather, it's a necessity and no longer a luxury. We have to continue to participate in international fora. We need to strengthen the multilateral trading system, as well as continuing the efforts to generate new opportunities and creating strategic partnerships, not only with the United States and Canada, but with the rest of the hemisphere and with Asia Pacific, as well as with Europe. Thank you.
Well, in the case of Chile, as in the other emerging markets, becoming a developed country is the main goal. For reaching that goal, we face several challenges in different areas or arenas. I would say the most important are education reform. That is a hot debate, and more than a problem, it's an opportunity for our population. And on the other side, we want to improve our competitiveness, productive. For that reason, this is the year of the innovation in Chile. The government have prepared or created several programs, and I think one of the most popular is the Startup Chile. We want to create an ecosystem of entrepreneurship. I think we have been successful with this program, but we have to continue to bring more new ideas, more people or global students or people with good ideas to invest in Chile. This program, I think, is unique. Give $40,000 for someone who wants to develop his idea or her idea in Chile and a visa for 1 year. That is impressive for us. We have received a huge response from all over the world. And along with this program, we have, as a country, trying to build a world-class human capital. For that reason, Chile has also been working on an ambitious scholarship program for our higher education students, people that come countries like the United States or in Europe or in Asia to have their master's degree, the PhD. And this program is based on applied sciences, so we want to have world-class human capital, and this human capital maybe is going to come back to Chile in the future to make their contribution. So for that, we have created a fund that is kept on abroad and is sourced with the revenue generated by copper export. And we have the goal to send 3,000 students abroad in a period of 10 years. That may be not sound so enormous figure, but if we compare with the figure of 2008, when we only sent 300 students to study abroad, I think this is a huge challenge for us. That is in the line with the idea to become a knowledge economy. As I said before, Chile is a mining country. Chile is based on commodities and natural resources. But we know that this is part of the present, but we have to be able to make the jump to and transform our economy to a knowledge economy. For that reason, we are investing in innovation, creating this ecosystem of entrepreneurship, and we expect to develop and put a lot of resources during this year and the following year in innovation. Finally, the third huge challenge is energy. We experience a lack of energy. We have some guidelines, but there's a lot of work to do. We try to connect our people with people in other countries, scientific, politicians, or people that develop public policy in the energy side to bring this knowledge to Chile. So this is not something that has been resolved, but it's something that we are working hard during the next year in order to become a developed country. Thank you.
Turkey's problems and objectives are no different than other countries, actually. But maybe one of the special things about Turkey has been our discovery of the importance of the public sector, especially in the last 10 years. We have initiated many public projects, from house construction to the health sector, in order to fill the void that the private sector was not filling. And we have seen that if public sector is not used for populist or political purposes, public sector can actually contribute to growth in a very efficient manner. And actually, Turkey's problems are more or less addressed due to structural reforms and the current pace of our EU integration. But I want to emphasize a couple of problems that we have with our external environment, especially in the last 2-3 years. Now we are surrounded with a European Union and EU countries meshed in economic crisis. And in the Middle East, we have countries in social and political crisis. And Turkey's idea is to contribute especially to the Middle East for political and economic reform. In that sense, we have actively engaged the regional countries in transition, like Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, Yemen, as well as Iraq, Lebanon, and other countries in the region, in order to stem the current tide of economic crisis. We have employed actually a two-headed approach. First, we have provided financial and export credits to these countries. We have provided $2 billion to Egypt. We have provided $500,000 to Tunisia, to Libya, to Yemen, in order to get these countries out of the economic shock, actually, after the transition. And we have also engaged the LDC countries, the least developed countries, especially in Africa and in Asia. We are now the rotating president of the LDC summit. We are actively engaging with these countries, and we have provided humanitarian and financial aid to these countries. We have actually opened up to Africa, which is a very important foreign trade policy, Turkish foreign trade policy. We have opened up 22 embassies in Africa in the last 10 years. And we are also reaching out to Latin America, to Asia, to all kind of continents that we were not present before. And we have benefited from this very much. For example, our trade with Africa has almost tripled in the last 10 years. Our trade with Latin America is developing, and now we are present in Asia too. And our second approach has been to engage and transfer our experiences in how to deal with financial and political crisis. We have been sending advisors and technical teams to countries in transition. We have opened up training centers in Turkey, such as the Istanbul School of Central Banking, where you have Libyan, Egyptian, Tunisian, and other countries' experts who are being educated. So overall, our idea is to stem the tide of economic crisis and political crisis in our surrounding region. And we don't see our economic prospects different from our neighboring countries. I think engagement is key in our policy in dealing with this crisis. Thank you.
Now open the floor up to questions. So identify yourself and then direct your question. If you want to speak to a particular person on the panel, direct your question to them, and keep your questions brief.
Okay. My name is Carl Getz, and I work in the supply chain at Rolls-Royce. My question is for Mr. Smith-Ramos. You talked about the importance of FDI to the Mexican economy, and you also talked about the success story of Querétaro. For Rolls-Royce, Querétaro is one of about 5 important aerospace clusters. And one of the striking commonalities that I see between Querétaro and the other clusters is that they all have very well-organized investment promotion agencies at the state government level. My question is, going forward, how do you view the role of the federal government versus the role of the state governments in terms of attracting FDI? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that there is a very much a complementary role that takes place in terms of the federal government and the state government activities in terms of promoting exports and attracting FDI. We have a government agency, ProMéxico, which is the federal government agency in charge of export promotion and attraction of investment. And what they do is they work very closely with the state governments. Every state has a ministry, a cabinet position within the state in charge of economic development, and they work very closely with them, as well as with agricultural development, because there's those 2 elements of the development of FDI in the state. But concentrating on manufacturing, ProMéxico works very closely with state authorities in promoting and organizing the presence of the different state offices throughout the world. The idea is to try to consolidate when we go to a trade fair or a show anywhere in the world, be it the Foodex in Japan or important electronic shows both in the United States or in Asia and others, countless others, is to have a Mexico presence under ProMéxico with the participation of the different states. And that way to be able to identify, the federal government cannot know all of the details of what a state needs or what a state has to offer, and therefore that relationship of complementarity is what helps really bring states to the forefront.
Next question. Yes.
I guess I can ask 2-part questions, 2 questions?
It's your conference, you can do anything you like.
I just wanted, we didn't really talk much about Europe today, and I wanted to bring Europe in the conversation. When you talked about challenges, you didn't mention much about Europe. And emerging economies do not operate in silos. And so we have a very well-integrated global economy, and Europe is in deep crisis. And I just wanted to know, maybe especially from the minister from China and also from Korea, what they regard is the adverse impact of European crisis on their respective countries, and whether or not they have actually taken appropriate safeguards if Europe tanks tomorrow. That's my first question. And then I have another question.
So,
We are now staying in U.S. and concentrating on the U.S.-China bilateral relationship in terms of trade and economy. And I'm not an expert on the world economy or on European issues. But I guess European has been serving as a very good driving power in the past years for the world economy, like U.S. and like China more recently. Now, if you have propeller going down, if you are flying, you know what will happen. So we'll try to do whatever you can, try to make sure that this plane will land safely, even though one propeller is not working. Of course, like if that happens in US, if that happens in China, or that happens in other parts of the world, we probably would have similar kind of feeling of what will be happening because of the downwarding movement of the economy in very important part of the world. So we are trying by our best to help EU if necessary, and this is our policy, and to make sure that when we can help our friends when they are in most difficult times, and then if they are recovered, then the world economy we enjoy would be sharing the benefit of their recovery. And I think U.S. economy is also trying to do the same thing to get recovered from the financial crisis. I think what China can do is to try to maintain the open door policy. And China has been trying to do that. And in the next 5 years, China will import no less than 10 trillion US dollars worth of goods, providing business opportunities to the other parts of the world. And take US, for example. In the, from 2001, since we joined WTO, in implementing faithfully our commitments to WTO, we can see the export from US to China increased by 5 times, 500% increase in the export from US to China. And at the same time, US export increased by only 1 time, 100%, exporting their goods to other markets in the world. It's 5 times higher in China alone. So this is a good example for how China could be able to help its trading partners or major trading partners to try to come out or recover from the difficult times. Thank you.
Korea, as I mentioned before, is a champion of FTAs. Naturally, we have FTA with United States and as well as with European Union. But European Union FTA is hard sell to Korea because we are experiencing increasing trade deficit because Europe's demand, Europe's consumption is reducing very rapidly. And I think this is Europe goes through some structural transformation, which takes a longer period of time. I think it's a challenge to themselves, also a challenge to the world outside EU. Actually, European Union has been a model of development which champions economic growth and social welfare together, unlike Anglo-American model. Now I think President Obama is raising that social security agenda very hard in American politics and economic. But I hope Europe will be very successful eventually in delivering both important policy goals, but in a very sustainable way. Until now, they didn't show any sustainable growth and social welfare. So this is not a good example to follow until they work out well. This is, I'm making comments on their own problem, but also this gives a serious bad impact on outside world. One thing is that some protectionism is growing in the name of, good faith, but it's a protectionism. But this is bad. As I mentioned, protectionism is a bad workout program in anywhere. So I hope Europe can attain very healthy and sound fiscal standards and turn out eventually, and a growth engine of the world and increasing demand, global demand, and also getting trade and invest more active and robust. And at the same time, Korea is pursuing is very militant FTA networking. As I mentioned, actually we are a champion of FTAs, and now we are entering into negotiation with China. China is a very challenging economy, and as I mentioned, China is catching up very rapidly, and also is leading in some very state-of-art technology. So the FTA with China is a great challenge. We need to make it high quality and comprehensive, so that the bilateral FTA offers a better opportunity for not only bilateral but also regional and global businesses. So TPP and RCEP and Asian Initiative and trilateral and Korea-China, I think makes great opportunities for businesses and growth. So we can sustain the growth of the region, not only China, but also the region together. I hope United States just showing more robust sign of recovery, growth very soon, and Japan too. So I think we need a reinforced faith in liberalization and market economy and more active flow of trade investment to get over current crisis. I think a G20 summit meeting is trying very hard to accommodate many agendas, not only trade but also finance and growth, all aspects of growth facing emerging economies as well as developed economies. Thank you.
Professor Agarwal.
Good afternoon. So my question is directed towards the minister from Chile. We lost one of our best doctoral students to Startup Chile. So he left the program and he's now setting up his enterprise in Santiago. So my question is, how sticky are these enterprises going to be? Because Jorge promised us he would come back in a year. So what are you putting in place as policies and procedures to make sure that the entrepreneurs and innovators don't leave after a year or a couple of years?
Thank you for the question. Well, our objective is not keep all the entrepreneurs that go to Chile to develop their ideas, keep it there. We want to create an entrepreneur ecosystem. So the only requirement for all the entrepreneurs that go to Chile to develop their idea is to share their knowledge. There's not other requirement. They are provided with $40,000, a visa for 1 year, and we hope they can share their knowledge, coaching other entrepreneurs, make contact, develop a network with other Chilean companies, and that is our main goal. We think that maybe we are not going to have many successful stories, but we are going to be able to create this ecosystem and bring more knowledge to the economy. So that is the goal. It's not keeping the entrepreneurship there, that giving the opportunity to develop their idea and develop the ecosystem of entrepreneurship.
Okay, last question there.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Minister Kim for earlier debunking some of the myths we hold here, Western ideas about sort of the perception of Koreans South Koreans on the issue with North Korea. And I wanted to thank both Minister Kim and Ning for their comments about the changing business model and the efforts for sustainability and improving the living standards. So my question is, we know stories of companies like Google who have, from a market entry perspective, have learned some lessons regarding censorship and really different cultural values as they've done business in China and in Korea. And so I want to ask you, from your perspective, on the relevance of human rights policy issues and censorship and the things that we focus on here from a Western perspective. What's the relevance of it to Korean and Chinese citizens? And do you see any impact or requirement for that to change in the 30 years going forward in your countries? Thank you.
Well, I don't see any particular problems raised about the standards of human rights in Korea, especially the privacy of certain private information, for example, amassed or just a database in certain company like Google. But I think Google has some business issues. I remember with China, but I think Korea is not a country with such an issue with Google. But we are minding their monopolistic power in the market. Perhaps FTC, Korean Fair Trade Commission, is more attentive. What Microsoft or Google does in other markets, Europe, United States, as well as in Korea. But I think I'm sure we don't have any standards issue as far as privacy and human rights are concerned. Thank you.
Okay, yes, Professor Senbet has the last word.
Yeah, so there was a lot of conversation this morning about Africa and also the role of China in Africa. So China definitely is the leading partner. And so my question really is not to the Chinese minister, but really to Korea, the minister from Korea, and also Mexico. And just wanted to get a sense of how much engagement you have with Africa. I keep on hearing about BRICS, Brazil, even Russia, India. Maybe there is something to learn from the minister from China about the secret of Chinese engagement with Africa. So, and Turkey, I know that Turkey is also getting big into Africa. I was just wondering, I haven't heard much about Mexico, because I see Mexico as one of those almost like BRIC countries, Yeah.
Sure, thank you. I think you touch upon a very important aspect, specifically when we talk about Mexico being a more active player in the international arena. For geographic and economic reasons, historically reasons, a lot of the effort that we have done in terms of cooperation and the work in terms of economic development is concentrated in our region, both in the NAFTA region in terms of the recent history of developing a trade and economic relationship with the US and Canada, but also with Central America and the Caribbean. And so that has been a lot of the involvement that we've had in the past. There's a growing interest. Mexico recently created the Mexican Agency for Economic Cooperation, which is a branch of the Foreign Ministry, which will work as other economic development agencies in working with different regions of the world. We are looking to strengthen ties, both from, in our experience, what I can mention from the Trade Ministry is that we have had limited trading experience with primarily Northern Africa. We are looking to expand that type of trade across all sectors. It's been limited basically to agricultural products and commodities going back and forth. But we're looking to strengthen that relationship and to strengthen through our foreign ministry the presence that Mexico has in terms of a commitment to open new embassies in Africa and to really have a presence in sub-Saharan Africa as well. Many of the traditional type of economic cooperation and engagement has been in the area of agricultural research. Last year, Mexico led the efforts on G20 on food security, and there was quite a bit of engagement at the level of increasing agricultural productivity for small producers throughout the world. And so the effort was, Mexico sort of took the lead in trying to connect what the G20, the group of the richest economies in the world, to really connect with the rest of the world and to make their work relevant. And we felt that in food security there was a lot of interesting exchanges that could take place with the regions of Latin America, Southeast Asia, and Africa. So there's a strong effort in linking up, for example, agricultural research centers internationally with agricultural research centers in Mexico and in different African countries to exchange viewpoints and technical assistance on developing new varieties of products, science and exchange of experts in the field. So we're looking to double those efforts, not only in the area of agriculture, but entering into other areas of economic development. And like I said, a strong program of beginning to have a stronger presence through embassies in the African continent.
So first of all, please join me in thanking our very distinguished panel.